Hey guys, what's going on? It's another week of Itty Bitty Podcasts, and we are getting closer to 30 episodes. And I want to appreciate everyone who's been listening to the show. If you listen every week, or you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, or any of those social media sites, I've been trying to be more active on there. So if you see me on there, say hi. Share something from us. We recently updated to ittybittypodcast.com, and I just wanted to let everybody know, if you listen to the show, try to go through the website. I keep the show ad-free. I want to try and do that for as long as possible, but it does cost money to make the podcast. So if you do go listen to the podcast, try to go through the website. I appreciate it. I just revamped it. It looked like shit. I had to redo it and a bunch of stuff to it. So now I'm updating it weekly with blogs. So I've got a blog up there right now. It's a recipe that I made this week. So we're going to have a couple new shows coming as well. We are thinking about doing a parenting pregnancy podcast, because if you've listened to the show, you'll know that me and my wife are expecting. So that's going to be something that we might have cooking up soon. And then we're also doing a cooking and like a food and beverage pairing show. So I used to work restaurant industry for a long time. I've been cooking my own meals and for my wife and stuff for years. So I decided to do a cooking show. So the first thing we did was kind of a mashup of two different recipes. It was shrimp wonton, or bang bang shrimp wonton tacos. And we paired that with some OG Kush beer from Cade Brewing. I can't remember where that's from, but shout out to them. It was really good. But let me keep going here. I actually wrote some shit down here to try to get a little bit more organized. Sometimes the intros are all over the place, but I feel like I'm a little bit even more all over the place. But anyway, so go through the website. I apologize for the ads, but it keeps the ads off the show for the time being, so it just makes the show a little bit more smooth. Again, share our posts, share the show. It helps me out tremendously when you share everything. I'm going to attempt to do it live, so if you're listening to this the day it comes out, it would be tomorrow, Wednesday. We're going to attempt to do a live with one of our former guests. I'm not going to say which one yet, just until we confirm that, but I will throw that up on my Instagram stories. But my guest this week is Cade Bennett, and he has an Instagram page, My Weekly Playlist. So he does a weekly hip-hop playlist on Instagram. And as some of you know, we just recently started our own playlist on Spotify to go along with our other podcast, Choice Nugs Only. So shout out to Choice Nugs Only if you listen each week. That show's starting to shape up to kind of go along with the theme of music that I wanted to. It's got the playlist that goes alongside of it. So you would think, it would be silly to promote another playlist, but Cade definitely knows his shit. He has a dope playlist, and he does really in-depth but concise reviews on Instagram for different hip-hop artists. So he's kind of a rap critic as well. I enjoyed talking to him. It was a good time. But remember, this is not a podcast about my weekly playlist. It's the Itty Bitty Podcast. It's anything but, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Itty Bitty Podcast. It's the Itty Bitty Podcast. It's the Itty Bitty Podcast. The Itty Bitty Podcast.
All right, Cade. Well, thank you for coming on the show. And the reason I wanted you to come on is I'm a big fan of hip hop, and your Instagram page caught my eye. You did a lot of really in-depth but concise reviews on a lot of different albums. And so I found myself on your page for a little while just reading through them. How did you get into this? What's kind of your background as far as hip hop goes? Tell my listeners a little bit about yourself.
Ever since a young age, I think the first form of hip hop I got into was actually Eminem. I mean, growing up, everyone felt like they were, some sort of rebel listening to Eminem, and I got pretty into Eminem as a young kid, and then from there it just kind of sprouted off, and as I got older and as I became an adult, it really started to just develop true just like love for hip hop. Not only because I think it's the catchiest music. I think the lyricism is unbeaten and compared to any form of music. And I got really into it, especially over this past summer. Got super locked in, and I started doing it because I friends and driving crazy.
Say that one more time.
Just talking about music so much with like other people. I mean, I couldn't stop talking about it, and I realized I might as well write some of this stuff down.
And so that's what prompted you to start the Instagram page.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that since July of 2019, so just about a half a year.
Nice. So I smoke a lot of weed, so I jump around a little bit. I wanted to go back to when you were talking about Eminem being one of your first love, one of your first hip hop loves. My mom absolutely fucking hates Eminem still to this day. That was like the big album that was being confiscated in my age range. I graduated high school in like 2006. And so that was
Oh,
like
okay.
the
Okay.
cassette you had to hide because you didn't want your
Oh,
parents
yeah.
to find it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
I think everybody
Sure.
had that album at some point. Like not that in particular. I'm just talking about in general. I feel like people have had, those albums where every generation goes through that album that they're not supposed to have.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
So as far as hip hop goes for you, this is something that you are releasing a weekly playlist? Is it an updated playlist each week, or is it a new playlist each week?
Um, for now, updated. I put that on Spotify. I would put the link up from Apple Music, but which is what I primarily use, but they don't let me. Instagram is really strange with Apple Music. It doesn't really work very well, so I just use Spotify for that. I just copy over my playlist from Apple Music. And for now, it's been one consistent playlist, but I was thinking soon I might have to start a new one because I mean, it gets to a point where there's just too much music in one playlist.
Right. I always run into that problem when I make playlists and stuff. I just add
Oh
way too
yeah,
much stuff. I keep going. I'm like, wait, I'm at what? How many? 1,000 what?
yeah. I got one playlist with like 3,000 songs, and at this point, it's not even a playlist. It's just where I add all the songs I like, and then I'll disperse them from to different playlists from there.
Nice. IG kind of is perfect for your structure too because it gives you, it's almost like a mini blog where it gives you the opportunity to write about the album, put the picture of the album, and kind of put your thoughts there with a nice little concise review. Um, have you tried other structures as far as that? Like, do you have a blog or anything like that, or is it just strictly on Instagram?
I've thought about expanding to different areas. For now, I'm just keeping on Instagram. I think maybe if I gain enough traction on Instagram, I might expand to other forms.
And now, as far as hip hop goes, what are you most looking forward to in 2020? I know that we're just fresh into 2020. I know that Dreamville has that Revenge 3 coming. Is it Revenge 3 that's coming out tonight?
Yes, sir, and Mac Miller, both
And
tonight.
Mac Miller, that's right. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean,
no, go ahead.
for me, the two guys that I'm really looking forward to is I'm pretty positive. I know Joey's gonna drop. He's obviously on my profile picture, Joey Badass. I mean, he's my favorite modern rapper. And then Isaiah Rashad too. Pretty excited for what he is coming.
Now, you said Joey Badass is your favorite modern rapper.
Oh, no question, no question.
And for you, what is it about Joey Badass that makes him your favorite? Like, I know I don't like the question like who do you think is the best rapper right now or who the like greatest rapper is of all time. I think that's kind of in anybody's opinion, and so like for me, I just am kind of wondering what makes you click with him in a way that like you would rank him as your favorite.
It's actually a funny story how I first encountered Joey. So his album, I'd heard this was around 2017. Kendrick's album "Damn" was supposed to come out, and I was sitting there anxiously waiting. And I liked him a lot, but I wasn't like, anything crazy. And
Hold on, you're breaking up real quick. Are you still there?
was that better?
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. The service isn't great where I'm at, so I'm off Wi-Fi right now.
Oh, no worries. Um, so Kendrick's album was supposed to come out, and I was pretty amped for that. And so I'm sitting there swiping up. It's midnight, I can't wait. I'm swiping up on Apple Music, and it never came out. And so I was pretty annoyed, and because he was saying it was coming out, but what popped up was this new Joey Badass album, Element, and I was like, well, maybe I'll listen to this. I see it's got J. Cole and Schoolboy Q, and I've heard a little bit of Joey before. And I ended up falling in love with that album. Actually, it's funny because the time Damn came out, I wasn't even paying attention to it. I just kept listening to this album, and it's weird because I'm not someone who likes to involve politics and rap. I think a rapper should focus on making a great song instead of forcing things like that. But that project to me was the least forced political project I've ever heard, and it really struck something with me. And then I went back to 1999, Before the Money, Nose EP, all that stuff, Summer Nights. I just clicked with me really well, and I could literally name off lyrics to every single one of his songs. Like I know his discography like it's the back of my head, so it's pretty. It was very surprising to me how much I really got involved with him, but man, I couldn't go back. He's my favorite, bar none. His lyrics, his voice. He can switch up his voice in so many ways. He can sing. He can hard rap. He can make this raspy, coarse rap. He can sound like he's from the '90s with like Brooklyn guys. He sound like he's Nas or part of the Wu-Tang, in 1999. He's just got so many different. He covers so many different spectrums of rap, and I really just enjoy him for that reason.
I think it's crazy that a lot of the music that I find is stuff that I'll look at the features. If I don't know an artist, I'll look real quick and see who they have as features, and then if I'm digging who they have on the album, I'll jump on it and listen to it. So I think that's.
Oh yeah, I mean that's really how I got into Joey. It's kind of funny, but.
Right. I feel like that's probably 90% of my music discovery is just, it's almost like connect the dots. You listen to one person's album, they feature somebody else, and then you listen to their album and they feature somebody else, and it just kind of it just keeps on going. That's part of the things one of the things that I like about hip hop is like the community aspect of it.
I'd agree. I mean, compared to, I feel like other branches of music, like pop, alternative music, rock, country, whatever you're into, I feel like they kind of just take features from the other branches of music, and kind of just all over the place. There's no like consistency. Where hip hop, I mean, you see people working with the same people for 10 years, or like. It's pretty cool. I mean, hip hop, you always end up finding. I was just listening to that new Mick Jenkins project, The Circus, which is actually pretty good, surprisingly. But they got a feature from Earth Gang on there, and I love Earth Gang, so that connects that for me, and really love that project. So I mean, it's cool how that works.
Yeah, that's how I found out about Mick Jenkins. Was I was a fan of Earth Gang, and then I found out that about him through them. Um,
Oh yeah,
the other thing
awesome.
that I was thinking about, the other day, I was thinking about how with hip hop music and music in general, other forms of music, they don't really, if you kind of look back, they don't really evolve or change much. They kind of stay the same as far as like, musical sound and style, same kind of chords, same repetition. And if you listen, they all kind of have a similar style. But with hip hop, it feels like it changes through in and of itself. It changes. So like the hip hop, if you listen to hip hop when it first started, it's not the same as what it is now. And a lot of people argue that there's not good hip hop out now. I would argue that you're not really looking hard enough, because there is stuff, and I do understand that there's a lot of stuff that's not made for me. So there's a lot of artists that I'm not going to ever connect with, and I'm not supposed to connect with those artists. But the artists that I do connect with and I do like, I will ride for, and I do like to tell everybody about, and kind of so. I just recently started a playlist just to kind of go along with the podcast as just like another way to kind of push out content, and so yeah, it's just one of the things I like to do is to just share music with other people.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. It's pretty interesting looking back. I mean, you look at the late '80s, early '90s, even like not even decades. I'd say every 5 years it looks like rap changes. Like
Right.
it's pretty. It goes in phases. I feel like for the first 5 years of the 2010s, we got a lot more just classic lyrical, solid hip hop, and then the last five, it was a lot seemed to switch a lot to trap music and a lot more just kind of like melodic rap. It's always changing, always evolving. It's pretty fun to watch. And regardless of whether you're into the new style or not, whether it's in the mainstream or it's just kind of underground, there's always going to be whatever kind of hip hop you like out there.
Right.
And there's always new people making it. So it's pretty fun. I think the best genre.
Well, the other thing I find interesting too about it is if you listen to like other types of music, going back to like the late '90s, early 2000s with like Limp Bizkit and Korn, the rock evolving meant changing to kind of fit hip hop into it, and then it kind of
Yeah,
evolved from
yeah.
there. And then if you look at country lately, not all country music now is gone the direction of hip hop, but a lot of them now will have like a catchy beat, and then you have people like Lil Nas X and Blanco Brown, who are heavily influenced by hip hop, and you kind of see these other forms of music evolving to match with hip hop, and part of me thinks that that's because hip hop has become so popular, worldwide, where it's kind of everywhere now.
Yeah, I would agree. I would definitely agree.
So now, what what are some like what's some mindless hip hop that you like to do? Like when I'm doing some work, I like to throw something on that's just kind of mindless to kind of, you know, just as background noise. Not something with a nice catchy beat, maybe a catchy melody. What's some artists that you like to listen to when you're just kind of trying to get some work done?
Um, Surprisingly for me, when I'm trying to get work done, I actually will end up listening to a lot more. I want to say monotone hip hop to R&B music, like or not even that. I mean, I'll listen to a lot of Mac Miller, Frank Ocean stuff. Recently I've been. I would suggest you check him out if you haven't. This guy named Black Party. I'd never heard of him before, but Childish Gambino signed him to his record label, and he's a pretty talented R&B artists. I was pretty shocked listening to his music. He reminds me of Daniel Caesar, and just stuff like that is really what I listen to. But lately, I've also been listening to. This is very mindless. I mean, I don't. There's not really any value in it, but sometimes it's just fun to have a beat, a song. Like I had some fun with Partisan Fontaine's new album and Flipped in Arrow's new album. Um, a couple songs in that Roddy Ricch album I like pretty a lot, and trying to think what else. I like Young Thug as well. Young Thug is always doing it for me. That new Jack Boys project had some good bangers on it as well.
Well, yeah, I listened to a couple of tracks off it. I didn't listen to the whole thing though.
Yeah, there's only probably 3 tracks worthwhile, but I mean those 3 tracks are pretty dang good.
Now, are you somebody who's big into going to like hip hop concerts?
To be honest, I've only been to one in my life, and I mean, unless it's a big time artist, I don't know how much I'd go back. I mean, I think they're great experiences seeing the artists, but I feel like they go on too long, and there's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of like waiting, and then you have to watch some lesser talent at the beginning of it, and it's fun for a while, but I don't know. I feel like being there for like 5 hours just drains me. But I went to the actually Escape from New York tour for the Beast Coast album this year.
Oh, nice.
And I mean, obviously, I went because Joey Badass. I got these VIP tickets for him, but it was a really cool. I really enjoyed that album, and it was a really fun experience. I'm definitely glad I went, but I mean, I'll pace myself going. Like I would go to like a Kendrick Lamar or Isaiah Rashad or a really big time artist. But I pick very carefully when it comes to concerts.
How'd you end up getting VIP tickets?
Actually, it was my birthday present. So
birthday present?
Yeah, that was probably the best thing.
Was that a birthday present that you bought yourself or somebody got for you?
No, my mom got for me. So
nice.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's always a nice little like surprise when you get to see somebody that you look up to and that you talk about on a regular basis.
Definitely.
So that's one of the only like rapper interactions that you've had.
Yeah. I was about to go to the Top Dog concert they had. I think it was late 2018 or early 2019. I think it was late 2018. I was about to go to that, and something fell through. I can't remember, but yeah, I didn't end up going to that. But yeah, that's the only concert I've ever been to hip hop wise. I've been to a bunch of other concerts, but those kind of my choice.
Yeah, I saw Lil Wayne like way back when he was like at the height of being Lil Wayne. I saw him, The Dream, and Fabulous, and that was actually a really good show. And then I've told this story on the podcast before, but I got kicked out of Wu-Tang Clan recently, last year. Before the opener, I didn't even make it to the opener because I was so excited. I'm such a big Wu-Tang fan that I got in and I smoked a joint before the lights even like turned off, so they kicked me out. And so if you want to hear that full story, it's on episode 1.
Oh jeez.
So that was one time, and then I missed out one time. I didn't do anything stupid. It was just way back I was in my early 20s, and I was living in Southern California. I had some roommates that wanted to go out for All-Star Weekend to this bowling alley, and they were leaving the house at like 11 p.m. And so I didn't want to go out that late. I was hurting from that whole weekend. Plus, I didn't have much money. And so they went to go get in. They couldn't make it in because they were so late, of course. So they were outside on the corner smoking a blunt. And Jeezy walked up. According to them, this is what they told me. Jeezy walked up, started smoking the blunt with them. They told him they couldn't get in. he got him in backstage. They were all backstage. They partied. They smoked for free, drank for free, didn't have to spend any money. They got to party on and watch the show from on the stage for that night. And I missed out just because I didn't want to go. So ever since then, I had like this fear of missing out.
Oh, geez, yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah, that was a big time letdown. And so, what other are you more of an old school, new school guy? Like, if you had to pick a generation, I know it kind of goes in like decades. Where would you kind of rank like the decades as far as hip hop goes? I know obviously if you're a Joey Badass fan, like your modern is going to be your go to. But where would you, if you're putting your bias aside, where would you put the place those where would you rank those ones?
Number one, I would have to go with just the 90s. I don't think anyone can argue that. I mean, there's just so much. Everything Dr. Dre and Snoop and Tupac and Biggie did then, it's just, you can't compare it. And I think after that, I'd have to go, surprisingly enough, I think I'd go with 2010s.
2010s? You said the 2010s?
Yeah, 2010s. And after that, I think I would have to go. I'd have to go to the late 80s. I mean, there wasn't really hip hop, and there was some hip hop, but just the 80s and like all those guys like Ghetto Boys, and NWA and stuff. There was some good stuff back then. I think after that, probably the early 2000s last, to be honest. But I still think there's good in all those decades, just overall.
Have you thought about expanding your Instagram to like independent artists as well?
Yep. Sorry, what was that?
Have you thought about expanding your Instagram page to independent artists as well as mainstream artists?
Yeah, I definitely have. A lot of people will contact you and try to ask you to put you on their page, and that's kind of a turn off for me. More times than often, I'll check out an independent artist if someone just will let me know, like, hey, this guy is pretty good, you should check him out. And I've done that a few times, but not too many. Not one that I could think of at the top of my head. But if there's something worthwhile, I'll definitely look into it.
Yeah, for me, that's one of the more fun parts about doing the podcast is discovering independent artists and stuff that are still on the rise. I mean, they haven't been big enough to not want to come on my podcast, but they're not like not small enough to where they're like a smaller artist or something. So I've had some interactions with people lately that have kind of been more positive. So I think social media is great for that, especially with a community like hip hop. As far as your page goes, I wanted to get back to sorry, I keep getting sidetracked. So you said, how long have you been doing the page? You already said it, but I would just...
For 6 months now.
6 months now. And so what is your favorite part about running the page? Is it like the interactions with people that comment on your page? Is it, finding new music? What part is the most enjoyable for you?
Definitely kind of just like expressing myself in that way. I mean, it's always a fun thing to just throw out there your opinions and see what everyone else thinks. Like, I've become pretty infamous as being the guy who likes the Big Day with Chance the Rapper, and I don't think it's the best album ever. I don't, but I enjoyed it, and
yeah, I wasn't disappointed.
Everyone hates. Yeah, everyone always hates on me for that, but it's fun to stuff like that because it's just also the celebrity interaction would be pretty shocking. Like on that review, Chance actually liked and commented on my picture,
Oh, nice.
and
That's always
recently
fun.
the Free Nationals commented on my review of their project.
I just found out about the Free Nationals. So is this like do you know more about them than I do? I'm sure you
Yes,
probably do.
so they've been Anderson Paak, who is one of my favorite modern guys. I think
Yeah,
he's
he's
a
awesome.
generational talent, and so they've been working with him since Malibu. So they did all the instruments. There were a few instruments Pac did himself, but I mean, you can look up this thing. It's called the Small Table, I believe, on YouTube, or the Small Table, something. And it'll be just Anderson Paak and the Free National performing, like just live. There's Malibu, and they're just a crazy talented group of just like a drummer, a bassist, and the other guy I think is more of like a DJ kind of guy, but I mean they're just a really good just actual instrumental group, and it's that project hit me pretty well. It's one of my favorites of the year actually, because it has all these different artists on it, but it's great because a lot of times when you just throw a bunch of artists on an album, it doesn't work very well. But the core music and the beats and everything, it all fits together. So it still feels like a complete piece of work. So it's pretty cool. I've never really experienced a project like that, but I mean they were deserving of that with after all their success. I mean they've knocked it out of the park with Anderson Paak's past couple albums.
Yeah, if you haven't heard the Free Nationals album, it's really good. That was one of my favorite albums of last year. It was pretty good. I played that thing like probably the whole weekend nonstop and just neglected every other album that came out that weekend. Are you still
Oh
there? Can
yeah,
you hear
it's
me?
that. Yep.
Oh, sorry. Um, where was I? And so going back to talking about hip hop. Speaking of hip hop, which we've been talking about the whole time, um, do you see a do you, how do I want to word this? Do you see any trends going towards like this year as far as like I know I've seen a few videos coming out more and more lately that have been kind of like more visually like they almost look like they spent a lot of money on it. I know when I was growing up, it was like the big thing was getting back home for TRL to make sure you saw your favorite video, and then videos kind of went away, and now with the internet back up, well not back up, but with the creation of the internet and the way it like exploded, and with people using it to share videos more and more, do you see more people going to that medium and producing more visual albums?
Definitely. I mean, a lot of music lately has been very. There's been a lot of songs recently. I mean, something I could think of right off the bat was Mac Miller's new track. He just released "Good News" off of his Circles album. I mean, something like that. I mean, obviously he's not around. Rest in peace to him. To not to be in the music video, but the artistry behind it is pretty incredible. And recently I definitely think there's been some sort of resurgence because I think for a while there, those were kind of falling off. I mean, but I definitely I agree with you. I think music videos are on the up, and I think any successful sort of artist is making music videos nowadays.
Yeah, I found I want to go back to music videos in just a second, but I found Mac Miller, like just his last album had just come out, and then I think he passed away shortly after that. But that was like when I first started finding out about him. I never really got into him until then, and then he passed away. Um, So yeah, I started listening to all his stuff pretty much right at that point. So I'm still new to Mac Miller. I'm still getting into him. But going back to videos, have you seen I think it's called Fried for the Night, the one featuring Earth Gang? Have you seen that video yet?
Oh yes,
It's
yes, I
so
have. That's a
trippy.
great music video.
I shared that on Twitter. I
Another
retweeted it.
crazy one I think of was "Ain't It Funny" by Danny Brown. That was a couple of years ago, but that's a wild music video.
I had never heard of Danny Brown until went on Your Mom's House podcast, and then he was such a good guest on Your Mom's House that I went and looked up his music, and I guess he like named his last album after something on Your Mom's House. That's what they said on the show. Uh, but yeah, he's different. He's not like everybody else.
No, he's definitely not. Definitely not.
Um, was that one of your? I can't remember what you reviewed that album as being. Was that one that you were big on, or you weren't too big on that one?
His most recent or Atrocity Exhibition?
The most recent.
I enjoyed it a lot, actually. I give it an 8 out of 10. I thought it was a pretty solid piece of work. I mean, regardless of him being weird or not, and whether it's my thing or not, he's consistent. And his lyrics are well done. And, I mean, well, I wouldn't. The problem with Danny Brown is, I mean, you can't. He's one of those guys where, I mean, I could never picture myself listening to Danny Brown with other people in the car or around, if you know what I mean. He's just one of those rappers where he's someone you got to listen to by yourself and just kind of like soak it in. He's not someone you're listening to if you're going to a party or, you know, just having fun with your friends. Just it's just not his style. But I mean, if you can really listen to his lyrics and get behind him, I think he's a really talented artist.
Yeah, he sounds like somebody that would be like associated with Adult Swim or something. I don't think he is,
Yeah,
but like
yeah,
he have a show. He had a show or
yeah.
something. I don't know if it's still on. I can't
He
remember.
did. It's called Danny's House.
Is it still on, or is it that did they cancel it?
Well, they had one season of it earlier in 2019, I think mid 2019, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're making another season or what, but I hope they do. I mean, I watched it all just because I think him as a person is almost more interesting than his music, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like they need more like hip hop documentaries and stuff on Netflix. Although I started the Wu Tang, the one on Hulu. I can't remember what it's called, the American Saga
Oh
or
yeah,
whatever. The first episode of that was really good, and I always end up waiting to watch stuff with my wife, and then we end up fucking forgetting about it, and I have to go back and rewatch it like 2 years late. Um, but I think Netflix needs to get like better. They have some hip hop stuff on there. Like I watched one where they did different artists. They had like Rhapsody on there, and they had a couple other people I can't remember. I think they did like Dave East, but they don't do it as much as like all the other documentaries. Or maybe I'm just like following the wrong stuff. But are you big into like hip hop documentaries and stuff like that?
definitely. Yeah. There was a. It was actually funny you bring up Netflix. There was a show I was watching on there, and sh- I think it might be called The Evolution of Hip Hop. Maybe.
Well, I
I'm
think
gonna
yeah,
look
I
it up.
think that was the one I think I've watched that was actually pretty good. There are a couple on there that are good.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it because it's really just going back and I originally watched it because I'm pretty big. I like UGK a lot, and so I saw they had an episode on that, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll check this out. And it's pretty cool. I mean, they because they bring the actual artist on there, and sadly, it's just Bun B. Pimp C is not with us anymore, but he's sitting there talking about how him and Pimp C met and stuff like that. And, it's cool. I'd never heard any of that stuff anywhere, so I enjoyed that one quite a bit. I also watched some of that. We end up finishing it, but I watched a good amount of that Wu Tang show actually because Joey Badass plays a character in it. I forget who he
Oh,
plays,
that's right. I
but
didn't even make that connection. I forgot he was in that.
yeah.
I just recently went and saw the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and one of my favorite movies of all time is How High 2. And so they do a little scene with Method Man and Redman in Jay and Silent Bob reboot. So I was pretty pleased with that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Method Man pops up a lot. He's apparently a big comic book fan and stuff too. So he pops up like in Marvel shit, and he pops up in a bunch of places as an actor. I think he's going to be on that show Power. I haven't watched that show, but I hear good things about it.
Oh wow.
What other stuff are you watching on Netflix besides like hip hop stuff? Are you just strictly stick to hip hop documentaries?
I'm not much of a TV show guy, surprisingly. I mean, some documentaries because I find that stuff interesting. But really, the only TV shows I've truly watched and invested myself in, I'm a movie guy myself. TV shows I've watched personally, I just recently watched The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. I love that.
Yeah, that was great.
And I've watched all The Office a couple times. I've watched, Family Guy. Breaking Bad's probably my favorite show ever. But no, I'm not into TV. I've seen all the essentials basically.
So
I watched Game of Thrones.
What are you looking forward to as far as movies?
Movies, I'm pretty excited for Christopher Nolan. He's the guy who made the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, Dunkirk. Legit director. He's coming out with this movie this year called Tenet, and it's about like some sort of SWAT team that works with. And I saw actually before the new Star Wars movie, I saw it was like a little clip for it. They showed like a 5-minute scene from the movie. It really got me. It looks like a crazy movie. I mean, I don't even understand what's going on, but it kind of looks like some sort of like Inception type of movie, which I'm all in for that.
Yeah, it looks really trippy. I saw some of the trailers. Any other movies that you're looking forward to, or what movies did you like in 2019? There was a bunch of different movies.
2019, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, man, I loved that movie.
I still haven't seen that, and I love that story. Like, not love that story, but it's just such a crazy story that has been told.
Must watch movie. Yeah, must watch.
I might have to do that one tonight.
I would have to say, and I know this is a bold statement saying how it just came out last year, but I've had lots of time to rewatch it and let it soak in. Easily, that's my favorite movie of the decade.
Oh wow. Yeah, I'll have to go back and watch it.
It's one of those movies where I've encountered very few movies where you see them and every time you watch them you pick up something new and it makes it almost enjoyable. It's pretty awesome. I also just recently watched Uncut Gems, that Adam Sandler movie. That was pretty solid movie as well.
I heard that's really good. I heard that's coming in possibly to Netflix. I haven't watched the Eddie Murphy on Netflix either. That one was
you really gotta watch that. Gotta watch Dolomite.
Yeah, we started watching it at like 2 a.m. once, and I fell asleep in like a half hour. So I have to go back. Maybe I have some free time tonight. I might have to watch one of those tonight.
That's a great movie. Eddie Murphy's he kills it.
Now
it's kind of funny too because it's like the premature hip hop. It's like before hip hop was hip hop, so it's in the era of like Al Green and all stuff like that. So it's very like this kind of R&B. He works in like a record shop, and I really enjoy that movie.
So since we're talking like movies and hip hop, what's a movie that you like as far as like crosses over with hip hop. So like How High would be one example. What's a movie that you really like that was, you know, based in hip hop? And please don't say like How High 2 with Lil
uh,
Yachty.
let's think. Um,
'Cause there's a
one that I
few.
quite enjoyed was I don't know if you'd say based in hip hop, but there's this movie that came out in 2018 called Mid '90s,
Oh, that was good.
and
There was hip hop
it's
culture
good.
in there.
Yeah, it's got kind of a hip hop culture. I'd say that's pretty linked into it. Trying to think of some other movies.
Belly was good. There was also, I don't know
Oh
if it would be considered hip hop, but they had like it was almost like the Jamaican version of Belly. It was called Shottas. I'm probably saying it wrong. But it had Kamani Marley. I think Wyclef Jean was in it. But it was
oh
a good
really?
movie. And
Oh, you know what? You know what's a great is Dope.
Dope? Which one's Dope?
Dope.
I don't know if I've seen Dope.
It's
Let me
on.
write
I
that.
believe it was on Netflix probably a year ago. I'd assume it's still on there, but you never know. Sometimes they take stuff off. But I would definitely recommend watching it. It came out in like 2015, 2016.
I'll have to check it out.
It's really there. It's a really cool movie because the main character he's obsessed with the '90s and rap and everything about the '90s, and he's kind of like an outcast because of it. He's just he hates the generation he's growing up in. It's a cool movie.
I'll have to look into it. Um, what was I just about to say? I always lose my train of thought and shit. Fuck, what was I just thinking of? It'll come to me. Oh, Netflix just canceled. I don't know if it was like just, it was like a year ago. The Get Down, which was a really good show. Did you ever get a chance to check out? I know you don't watch much TV, but The Get Down was, I think it was produced by Nas, but it was like the story of these kids discovering hip hop and like they were running with like different crews and like staying out of trouble and not getting one of the kids is like more into the gang life and shit, but it's a good like I forget how many like episodes it is, but it's almost like borderline musical, but it's got like hip hop songs. All the music's really good. um
Oh, okay.
so it's real.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was only one season, but it was really good.
Yeah, it wasn't. I feel like I remember seeing that. Wasn't it like the episodes were really long and they would release them like a couple months after the other or something?
I watched it
But,
after it had already been like out for a while, so I
oh,
think,
okay,
and
okay.
it wasn't, it was like a full season, um, but it was good. It was like it had like the dude from Breaking Bad was in it as like the chick's father, um, so it was really good. I can't believe they got rid of it. It was like it was almost like the story of hip hop and disco and like them
Yeah,
running around as kids and
I remember seeing it with just a bunch of people. I would scroll by it on Netflix and just see a bunch of people dancing disco in the club. That was like the main cover of it and everything.
yeah, and they could have taken it a lot of different directions when they just kind of ended it as it was and just kind of finished it on a
And that's
cliffhanger.
always a bummer when shows end and it's just the studio's control. That always sucks.
So while we're finishing up and getting ready to wrap up and stuff, what I guess we've kind of already talked about what you're most looking forward to in hip hop. Is there anything I guess you're not looking forward to as far as hip hop goes? Like, are there any artists that you're just like I'm not looking forward to that album?
This is another thing I get a lot of slack for, and I have no idea if he's coming out with another album this year or what, but someone I just really can't get into is Earl Sweatshirt. And, I really liked his Doris project, and everything after that really turned me off. Like some rap songs in his Feet Play project, I really just I can't listen to them, to be honest. I find them unlistenable because I feel like regardless of what genre of music you're in, what I feel like no matter how hard a beat or how low key a beat is, there's still a melody in it. And I feel like his songs, it's like he doesn't ride the beats and he's just like off, like there's no melody in his songs, and it sounds like a weird thing to me, but I just like I can't like get with his lyrics no matter how good they are, just because I can't like get into it's tough for me.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I agree with you. Well, I've heard a couple of like features from him that I think that I liked, and then
Oh yeah, he's great. He's really great on features because he doesn't deal with the beats and stuff. You know,
right.
He's great on features. He's got some awesome features. He's a talented lyricist and rapper, I believe. I just can't stand his style.
I guess that's going back to how like sometimes features can be a great thing, or they can be in a situation like that where somebody sounds really good on the features, but I couldn't find. It wasn't that I like thought he was bad. It was just that I couldn't find anything that was for me. So it was just like I kept trying. I'm like, I'm only going to continue to try so many times before, I realize that your music's just not for me, and I'm going to move on. So while we're finishing up, do you have anything that you want to plug or talk about that you got coming up besides the weekly playlist stuff?
Later tonight, I should be releasing a review a couple hours after. I'm going to give, firstly, I'm going to listen to Mac Miller's project. So later tonight, he's going to be the first project up. Every time I review a project, I listen to it times over before I put down any words about it.
Well, this will be coming out like after. This will be coming out like in a week or so.
Okay. Yeah.
But you have anything coming up?
Either way, that should be coming out. And also the Dreamville project. And there's actually been some good singles so far that come out this week. 2 of them from the Dreamville album.
Yeah, I heard it's still up.
Yeah, it's still up. And I'm normally not a fan of the Ari songs, just Ari Lennox by herself, but this new song she just called "Busted" is actually pretty good song. I was pretty impressed.
I heard it, but I wasn't fully listening. I was doing a couple things, so I got to go back and listen to that one.
Gotcha. Yeah, it looks promising. I mean, I trust Greenville. I think they delivered a good product last year. So,
well, why don't you tell people where they can find you?
So on Instagram, my page is at My Weekly Playlist. And
is it just Instagram? You have Twitter or anything like that?
Just Instagram for now.
Just Instagram? Nice. All right, well, Cade, thanks for coming on and talking hip-hop with me. I appreciate you coming on the show. I'll send you a message or something shortly to kind of let you know when it's going to come out, and yeah, I'll talk to you later. Thanks again for coming on.
Appreciate it.
Later. Thanks again for checking out the show. If you like the show, again, remember to subscribe, rate, review. Make sure you're sharing. Follow us on Instagram. We're Itty Bitty Podcast. We're on Twitter at Itty Bitty PCast. So we're all over the place. Just look up Itty Bitty Podcast. You'll see us there. Go through the website. Remember, that helps me out tremendously. Next week on the show, we have this is actually one of the cool things about podcasts is every once in a while somebody will reach out to you about a show that you did and want to collaborate. And so I had somebody reach out about the episode we did on psilocybin mushrooms. It was one of the more popular episodes we've had, and so we're going to do a follow-up episode to that. I kind of went on his show and he kind of interviewed me, so it's going to be kind of a different format than you're used to, but I think it's still going to be, it's a lot of me talking, so it'll be kind of nice to be on the other end of that for a show for you guys to check out. So check that out. Be on the lookout for that. So we're going to do it's almost like a debate. So it'll be debate form. for the use of recreational drugs and medicinal, as far as like we're talking like psychedelics, MDMA, acid, mushrooms, that type of stuff. So, and cannabis as well. So it was a good interview. I had a good time talking with him. And yeah, it was nice to talk to somebody with a different opinion about something. And yeah, it was a nice little chat.